Hi, folks. Welcome to episode 119 of the Wealth on Any Income podcast. This is where we talk about money tips, techniques, attitudes, information, and provide inspiration around your business and your money. I'm your host, Rennie Gabriel. In past episodes, we spoke about how to understand the numbers from your business, how to measure the level of pleasure based on where you spend your money, how to track your money in 5 to 10 seconds, what determines how close you are to complete financial choice, and how to run your business without being in your business. And last week, we had Burke Franklin talking about his business plan templates that fit every business, from the startup to the large, successful businesses that want to evolve and get additional funding. Today, we have as our guest Divian Mistry. Divian is a marketing expert for personal brands who want to grow their business using proven, time-tested strategies. After starting his first business at age 14, and now he's 16, he became known as the Ticket Master at university. He helped clients create 6 months of income within just 3 weeks, tripled event ticket sales within 24 hours, and quadrupled event registrations within 1 month. He raised £5,000 for the Make-A-Wish Foundation at a charity event he hosted with keynote speaker Kevin Green from the TV show The Secret Millionaire. And Divian, I'm sure Kevin's been featured other places, and Divian's been featured in 2 business books. Divian, welcome to the Wealth on Any Income podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Rennie. I'm really looking forward to sharing this episode with people.
Terrific. Well, let's get right to it with some questions. Okay, it sounds like you build websites. Why?
Why? That's a great question. I actually built my first website when I was 13 years old, taught myself how to code HTML, JavaScript, PHP, MySQL, and CSS. But that's not the reason why. That's just a bit of a history. The reason why is because I actually ran a business where I was an expert myself in that particular business. And we had online courses and masterminds, and we did a load of marketing. And one of the things that I realized, I'm quite tech savvy, but I logged into Infusionsoft. Some people call it Confusionsoft.
Yes.
But I personally love it. I love it. I think it can do a lot of stuff. And the first time I logged in, I was like, I just want to send a broadcast email. And I was like, I don't know how to do this. And it took me about half an hour to figure out how to send a broadcast email, which I'm tech savvy. So if it took me half an hour, somebody who's not tech savvy, that could have taken them 3 hours or 4 hours or a long time. And so
I would have given up long before that.
Yes, that's the other thing. And I've also had clients and people I know in the past who said they've literally started crying because they can't figure something out. And then someone comes in and does it within a short space of time. So the reason I do what I do is because one thing I very much realized in the last few years is I feel this calling in life to be the helper of helpers. And so I love helping people who help other people as a way of creating a ripple effect. And I just happen to be good at technology. So why not help them with the number one challenge that personal brands, experts, speakers, coaches probably struggle with? So why not help them with that? And that's really why I do it, because I love helping people, and helping people who help people just aids my mission to help people.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you. And as you probably know, I donate 100% of the profits from the online work that I do to charities, animal and veteran charities. Tell me about your favorite cause and what they do.
Sure, it's definitely, I'd say that my favorite cause that I've raised money for in the past is Make-A-Wish Foundation. And it's because that's the big event that I ran a number of years ago with Kevin Green as a keynote speaker. Mm-hmm. And I actually first heard about this charity when I watched the episode years before that of Kevin Green on The Secret Millionaire. And his charity was Make-A-Wish Foundation. And I love what they do because they basically help kids and families where the kids are terminally ill and they're past the point of actually being able to recover from it. And they give them life experiences that they might not have. Going to Disney World, if that was their dream, or something like that, where the family definitely wouldn't be able to afford to do that. They allow them access. They give them the financial support, and not just the financial support, but the actual person support. If your child is in a wheelchair, you might need someone to come with you to help you in that process of taking them around. And create that experience for them and for yourself. So when they do pass, you've got them wonderful memories. And I don't know, kids generally are very dear to my heart, probably because I still am a kid myself. But just the thought, I do actually have people in my family who had babies and then they passed away within a very short space of time of being born. And it takes a toll. But it's nice to think that these people are then looked after and able to have memories that they can remember for the rest of their lives. When the child is no longer there.
Yeah, I can't even go to what it might be like, because that is so tough. And I do remember seeing an episode where a little boy wanted to be a fireman, and he was 5, 6, 7 years of age. He goes to the fire station. They actually had equipment manufactured to his size, so he could have a helmet and he could have the firefighting protective clothing. I'm having problems thinking about it. It's just too tough for me to go there. So let me move on to an easier question. Tell me, who are the people you support primarily? I'm going to guess coaches is one of them.
Yeah, so I use the word coaches to describe a marketplace, but anybody with a personal brand. So maybe they're a coach, they're an expert, they're a speaker. This new term that's come about called thought leader, which wasn't necessarily around before. But them kind of people who have a personal brand. It could be a consultant. And the main core thing that I love, the people I love to work with, are the people who are making a difference in the world. So that could be either through what they teach. So they might be teaching about emotional change in some way, shape, or form, or spiritualness, or they encompass that in what they do. So they might teach about money and building wealth, but they encompass being a spiritual or emotional leader within their own lives, and kind of the way they share their knowledge is encompassing that. So spreading good vibes in the world. Because I think, one of the reasons that's really important to me is because I've had many people come to me who are like, I just want to make more money. And I'm like, but why?
Yeah.
Like, well, what's the point? Like, yes, it's great to have an abundance of money, of course. Look, your brand's called Wealth on Any Income. Like, it's about, it's fine to have lots of money. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're just doing it for the sake of doing it, or for the sake of having a nice car or having a nice, and that's the only reason you're doing it, that's not my kind of client. Because I will celebrate you if you go and buy a Bentley or a Ferrari. Great, that's awesome. But you're also doing it. You're creating that money. You're in business for a reason, not just to make money. And that's really important to me. That's super important to me, that they're the right kind of people wanting to make a difference.
Yeah, and it's very similar to the kind of clients I would turn away as, the someone that just wants the mansion or the jet or something. That's not going to be my kind of client either. If they don't have an intention of being philanthropic, I really don't have an interest in them. Well, let me ask you now, what would you say your biggest failure was, whether it was personal or business, and then what insight did you gain from that?
So my biggest failure is I set up a business in property, where we call it property, a property business over here. In America, you might call it a real estate agent, but it's all the same thing. So I used a strategy where we would effectively sublet properties, and it's a great strategy. I started using it when nobody knew about this strategy when I started using it. Now you go to property networking events, and you go to even real estate agents over here, and they're like, "That's rent to rent." Like, I'm not doing that. So I'm glad I got in when I did. But anyway, so I started on my own. Then I started working with a business partner. And don't get me wrong, I want to be really clear here. He's an awesome guy. He's one of my clients now in my business. We parted ways in the business we were running. So this is just a lack of experience from both of our parts, really. So he was a visionary, a big thinker. And I was kind of somebody who was in that kind of, if you know wealth dynamics, he was like a visionary, like a creator. And I was more like a star / supporter.
Mm-hmm. The terms I use for that are visionary and execution master.
There we go. Visionary and execution master. So I pushed into the execution master zone, but he was responsible for the accounts and the accounting and also doing, there we go. Here we go. And also doing new deals. It was great having the conversations to do new deals. But then we did 2 at the same time, and we borrowed money to do these deals, and we went 50% over budget on both of them deals, which meant we ended up needing to borrow more. And from that, something triggered in me to go, you know what, we need to overhaul the finances. And so we did. And when we did, I found out our cash flow projection sheet kept coming out wrong by a bigger amount than I was happy with. And then we figured out why. And in the end, it was because there were some things like our advertising spend, which is essential. You can't run a business without advertising spend, especially in that world, that weren't allocated. So there's a couple of learnings from this. One is, do not give accounting to a visionary. Full stop. End of story.
Right.
Love him to bits, but not the right person for accounts. And that was demonstrated in we had a bookkeeper, and he'd go to the meeting every month. And one day I decided I'm going to turn up when we did this overhaul. I turned up, and he sat across the room from this bookkeeper, and she was on Xero, the accounting software, going, "What's this for?" And he goes, "Oh, let me just reconcile that." And then, "What's this for?" "Oh, I'll just," and I'm like, dude, we're literally paying her to tell you what you need. Right now, we're paying her to tell you what to reconcile. And what's the point in that? Because the list is already there of what you need to, what we pay for. I don't understand. So I ended up overhauling that process. But so that was the first learning. Visionaries and detail stuff do not go together. So don't try and make that go together. I think the second learning out of that was, and part of that, further to that learning, is it doesn't matter. Even if you have the right person on the numbers, you as the business owner or one of the business owners, if there's more than one of you, need to know your numbers. It doesn't matter who you are in that business. Even if you're not running them, you could be the salesperson, sales director, owning a equal share of that business. In my opinion, like, you should still know the numbers that you need to know. You should still have an overview of the numbers. You might not know, how much the HR department spent on, paper last year. You probably don't know that. But overall, you should know we're roughly bringing in this. We're roughly spending this on people and that on et cetera, et cetera. So that was the other learning. And the learning that just came to mind actually is, when you do back then, I started that business because I wanted to get rich. Because if I got rich, I could buy a nice house, have a nice car, go on lots of nice holidays, have a good-looking wife, and I'd be happy. That was the plan. That was it.
Yeah. Young and external validation. Yes.
So 22 years old, straight out of university, go on a 12-month mastermind. That's the goal. Done. Happy. None of that went to plan. Epically went the complete opposite way in the end. But the big learning from that for me was, you've got to do things with a purpose. Because all I did that for really was to make money. And it's okay sometimes to do things just to make money. But if that's the only thing you're doing, and you're not doing for any purpose, and you're only doing to make money, it will crumble at some point.
Yes.
Like, it will just crumble, because when things get tough, which happened, I stuck in there because I'm a stick to it type person. But I wasn't really trying to figure out how to like I was just figuring out how to pay the debt off. I wasn't figuring out how to pay the debt off and grow it because I was never there in the first place because it had a purpose. I used to get these, I was in charge of maintenance of one of my responsibilities. And I know you're in property as well.
Yep.
Like maintenance, I'd get a ticket from the tenants and be like, oh, here we go again. Like just like, and I only worked 4 hours a week back then, like half a day a week, because I got it down to half a day a week.
Yep.
And every time there was a ticket, I was like, it's just so, what are you doing to me? Why are you using all my time up with this silly thing? Like someone's put their milk on your shelf, like go and deal with it, whatever, like you're adults. Why'd I have to get involved? But because there was no purpose to it for me. Whereas I've got friends in property where they have deep purpose to it. So then conversations, they're okay with them. They're happy with them. They'll do them conversations. But I didn't. And so for me, that was the biggest learning is you got to have purpose because in business, things will get tough. And when they get tough, you have to have that drive to want to continue doing it and get out of the tough spaces, have them tough conversations and still keep that love and care and joy for your clients or your tenants or whoever they are. I'd say that's probably the biggest learning for me.
Yeah, and I want to validate what you're saying, Divian, because through the entire pandemic, and we're going 2.5 years already, I've had 100% of my tenants pay 100% of their rent without exception, except for one person in the state of California came in and covered her rent, and then she moved on. And it's because the purpose is I provide housing where people want to live and be happy. And they are, and they pay me for that. And so you're right. With that, when I get a ticket that something needs to be done, it's taken care of with joy because I'm making my tenants happy. And that's a part of my purpose. And that's why I didn't lose $1 of rental income. And I don't know too many other landlords in the United States that can say that. So I completely agree and validate what you're saying is you need to have a purpose beyond just making the money. Now, let me ask you, another question, and thank you for that one. Well, if people want to get a hold of you and learn more, do you have some valuable resource that you can offer?
Yes, I have a guide, and I'm going to probably butcher the exact name of it.
Well, I'll tell you what the website, or the link is that you gave me, and it said 11strategies.com. Is that it?
Yeah, there's a specific link for your guys.
Yes, and I see that, and it looks like it's Ren something. And rather than try and get people to write it down while they're driving their car and listening to a podcast,
yes,
it will be in the show notes. They can click on it, and they'll be able to get right to you.
Yes, and so just to share what it is, it's called the 11 most effective strategies to capture more leads from your website in the next 60 days. Without spending more on traffic. And the reason I created this is because I talk to a lot of people about websites. Big surprise. One of the things that I find is, when you start a business, most people go, what do I need? A website.
Yeah.
And they don't really, and trust me, I've done this myself. I've started a business going, I need a website. I don't have a clue why. And I just build one. And the reality is that it's not an asset. A lot of people's websites are not an asset in their business. That could be because the way they've designed it. It could be because of the words that they've used. It could be because of the layout and the flow. So many different things. And so I'm really on a mission to help people turn their websites into actual assets, things that actually help them grow their business, not just something that is on the expense sheet, but something that can actually sits on the balance sheet as an asset, not on the expense sheet as this money goes out every single month, and aids them in creating more business for themselves. So that's why I created this. And I also reserve this exclusively for when I do speaking gigs, or come onto podcasts. So it's not something that you can just find on my Facebook page. It's reserved exclusively for interviews and speaking gigs that I get. Beautiful.
Thank you, Divian. Thank you for being on the show and the value you contributed to my listeners.
Thank you. I really enjoyed coming on here and sharing the things I've shared.
Thank you, Divian. And To my listeners, thank you for tuning in. You can listen to the Wealth on Any Income podcast on your favorite platform, and please rate, review, and subscribe. If you'd like to know how books, movies, and society programs you to be poor and what the cure is, then log on to wealthonanyincome.com/TEDx. You'll hear my TEDx talk and can request a free 27-page roadmap to complete financial choice and receive a weekly email with tips, techniques, or inspiration around your business or your money. And if you'd like to see how you can increase your wealth and donate to the causes that touch your heart, please check out our affordable program, Wealth with Purpose. Until next week, be prosperous. Bye-bye for now.